ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930 present The Drive.
It is Monday, March 25th. Your drive begins now on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. I'm your host, Paul Swann. We're going to open up our text line for you in just a minute at 304-396-TALK. That's 304-396-8255. Today, the first day of spring practice, and we had a chance to catch up with Coach Huff and a host of others. And we'll hear from them all throughout the next few weeks as we get ready for the spring game. That's coming up on the 20th of April. Should be a fun one. We'll get a first real look at what the team looks like at this point. But until then, there's 15 practices to find out at least what this Thundering Herd team might look like here in the upcoming season. So we'll hear from Coach Huff in a few minutes. We'll get his thoughts on the basic where Thundering Herd football is at for 2024. So we'll get his thoughts. And as I mentioned, throughout the week, we're going to hear from a lot of the coaches. We'll hear from Seth Dagey. We'll hear from Jason Seymour. We'll hear from Jonathan Gallant. We're also going to hear sometime soon here in the near future. I had a chance to sit down and talk with a few of the assistant coaches. I got a chance to talk to Aaron Dobson. So that's coming up in a future show. I just want to tease that now. We'll have something different every day. Also, Cody Krill, talked to him for a few minutes. And I had a good conversation with the secondaries coach, Bob Shoop. He was an advisory role last year, so he's now secondary coach. Had a chance to spend several minutes with him before and after we interviewed, and I like him. It was my first real opportunity to just sit down and talk to some of these guys for a long time, and I'm a big fan of a lot of them, so I'm excited for Marshall football. You should be as well. And we'll get your text in this hour, 304-396-TALK. That's 304-396-8255. Now, we did start the day with some football news before we had a chance to catch up with Coach Huff. And this is pretty cool, actually, for Coach Huff. Now, Coach has been named to the American Football Coaches Association's Board of Trustees for the 2024 season. He was one of 6 coaches elected to the board in this cycle. Also, a name of note, Ohio's Tim Albin. There's a lot of names that are on this thing. What is it? Well, it is an organization that was founded in 1922. It's the keynote organization for college football coaches for more than 100 years. That's sort of that's the bullet points here. And this is a situation where Coach was selected by his peers, and he's going to be someone who is the lone voice for the Sun Belt with this board of trustees. That's pretty good. So you like it when your coaches have the respect of the peers. You like it as well when they have a voice in shaping the future of the game. That's pretty cool to have him serve in that capacity. So that's a huge honor for him. So congratulations there. And then later in the day, we finally got the official staff. It finalized today with Josh Miller. He was announced today as Marshall's new tight ends coach coming from Purdue. He was an offensive analyst last season. What does an offensive analyst do? Well, the job, at least at Purdue, was advanced scouting, opponent breakdown, and working directly with the offensive coordinator for game planning responsibilities. Now, this is a revamped offensive staff, right? You have Seth Dagey, offensive coordinator. We're going to hear more from him this week. Air raid, that's all you need to know. We're going to hear that a lot. Also, Cody Krill on the offensive line. Aaron Dobson, he's going to be handling the wide receivers. I can't think of a better guy to bring in, handle wide receivers, than one of the best for the Thundering Herd in that position. And he's played at the next level. He's done things. So instantly he should have the attention and the respect, the instant credibility in that room. Now, where else has Josh Miller served? Well, he was an offensive coordinator at D2, Midwestern State, and Saginaw Valley State. So he's been around. Doesn't matter the division. If you're good, you're good. You'll find your way. And he also He was the inside wide receivers coach at Bowling Green in 2018. Well, Bowling Green has always seemed to have the Thundering Herd's number, especially when you travel to Bowling Green. So, yeah, if you can't beat them, right? You can't beat them, steal from them. Definitely like to have his insights. Maybe the next time Marshall plays Bowling Green, he can give some insights on how to actually beat them. So, defensive side, Bob Shoup moving from analyst to secondary coach. And Jason Seymour is going to be in charge of linebackers as well. Of course, he's the D coordinator. He's handling the linebackers. And there's some other support staff that were announced today. So the Thundering Herd putting together the staff, putting together a blend of old and new. It's cool to have Aaron Dobson there. He sort of is part of the new but still part of the old. He can talk about his time at Marshall. He can talk about playing the game. He's been at that next level, as I mentioned. So there's a lot exciting going on as far as the coaching staff is concerned. So that's some big stuff happening today. And, of course, we hear from Coach Huff, and we'll do that in just a few minutes. One note from today, the game at Virginia Tech for Marshall baseball tomorrow, that's been changed. Weather, of course, it always is weather. That is going to happen at 1 p.m. tomorrow. So instead of 4 p.m., it's going to be 1 p.m. I don't know how many of you, if any, were planning on making the trip. If you were, you better adjust your travel plans. If not, of course, you can follow along. There'll be live stats. You can head over to herdzone.com, track it there. I'm not sure if this is going to be ESPN Plus. I apologize for not knowing that off the top of my head. Yeah, it is. It is going to be on ESPN Plus. So you can follow this one on ESPN Plus, kind of keep it on in the background at the office tomorrow, wherever you're going to be, if you want to keep an eye on this one. But again, it's 1 o'clock, not 4 o'clock, and that's Marshall and number 13, Virginia Tech. Thundering Herd winning the series over the weekend, capturing its first Sun Belt Conference series of the year. Took 2 of 3 from Arkansas State. That game on Sunday went forever, it felt like, but that happens. Sometimes you get extra innings. Sometimes you can get it done in 9. So the Thundering Herd taking 2 of 3 from Arkansas State. So its first conference series of the year for the Thundering Herd. Marshall now 8-15. Virginia Tech 18-4. Let's hope the Herd can get it done. Midweek game, so anything possible. Marshall could have an off day. Virginia Tech could have an off day. Virginia Tech, the rotation might be favorable for Marshall as far as the mound's concerned. Who knows? It happens tomorrow. We'll keep an eye on it. And, of course, home games. Don't forget our Saturday showcase coming up again. We'll have that Virginia Tech game as well. When Virginia Tech comes back to Huntington, we're going to have that one. I'm excited to bring them into Jack Cook Field. I'm excited that we still have some pretty good games coming up. And so far, so good. Everybody's been pretty positive about their experiences at the Jack. It's a fun place. I know there have been a lot of people who have come in from outside of the area that are Marshall grads, Marshall fans. They like baseball. First time to experience a Marshall baseball game. I'm sure for a lot of you, this is the most baseball you've been to. And, well, forever, absolutely. It's been fun so far to have baseball back. And don't forget, after the Herd's done, Colecats. We'll have more to talk about them later on in the next few weeks, I'm sure. But the Colecats, it's going to be more consistent baseball. We'll have it, almost day to day instead of series. And of course, home and road, Colecats should be fun. So I'm looking forward to all of this, actually. But when we continue, let's get started. We got Coach Huff. We'll hear what he had to say today. He's got a lot of thoughts about a lot of things. And, of course, the one thing that I know you're all excited about, talking about the air raid, right? I'm excited to talk about the air raid. Let's do that when we continue on today's edition of The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
This is The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
Welcome back to our Monday, March 25th edition, The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. We're going to open up the text machine for you. We do that at 304-396-TALK. That's 304-396-8255. Today, first day of practice, Marshall University. We're getting set. Spring games coming up on April 20th. We'll see what the Thundering Herd looks like at this point during the spring game. But you got 15 practices to try to put it all together before you can get ready for the fall. and we had a chance to catch up with Coach Huff and several of the assistant coaches, coordinators, all of that today. We'll have a lot of them over the course of the next few weeks. We'll have, of course, some of Coach's practice reports as well. So we're in spring football mode from now until the spring game and then after that. So what do we know today? Well, the first thing we know, according to Coach Huff, and if you didn't know already, you do now, it's day one.
Day one of spring ball. The excitement is through the roof. What we've got to be able to do is match that excitement with very intentional focus on the task at hand. Obviously, everyone can get excited to get out on the field for the first time of this 2024 season. Everyone can get excited about the potential that we have and all the teams across the country have. But ultimately, we've got to find a way to maximize these 15 practices in this basically a month of football. And that's what our focus has been since the clock hit zero on the last game through recruiting. The fourth quarter program was probably one of the best that we've had. And that was just based on having much more intentional focus on what we wanted to get accomplished, from a body composition standpoint to a mental and physical toughness standpoint to a stamina and conditioning standpoint. Coach Ben Ashford and his staff have done a phenomenal job of preparing our guys in that program and in that phase.
Yeah, and if you've never been in the room with BA, it's eye-opening. We went in last year. They opened up a session for us where we had a chance to go in, just talk to BA while they were going through some of their workouts, and it's intense. It really is intense. So it all starts with BA, and now we got them on the field to see what they know, what they look like. I mean, they look great running in pads, right? They look great looking in shorts, right? Yeah? I mean, they got to hit somebody soon. So that's where we're at here. And, of course, there have been some new rules as well. Coach was pretty excited about the fact that, we got a lot of new things. We got to get this going. We got to speed up the timetable. And there are new rules that we can kind of do this and this at the same time, and that's going to help learning the new offense.
Obviously, with the new rules, we're able to pair some of those workouts with walkthroughs and meetings, which was really good for us, being able to get a jump on a new offense and being able to adjust a lot on defense and special teams.
And that's going to be key. You have a new offense. You have a new offensive coordinator in Seth Dagey, and there's going to be a transition period. But the good news is there's going to be a lot of opportunity on this football team for players to step up. Everybody's fresh now. It's a clean whiteboard. I mean, I think even Mark Martin asked that question or alluded to that. The whiteboard is clean. You wiped it clean. Nobody's name is written in. There isn't a permanent marker. Nobody's got their position locked in just yet. So there should be a lot of competition on the field this year. And now, as we continue from Coach Huff, Phase 2 is now where we're at. What is Phase 2? Well, Coach talked about being in Phase 2. It's the process of just molding. You got a lot of new kids coming in. The transfer portal always will be a factor in college football. So there's always going to be new players coming in for the first time. Doesn't matter their level. They can be veteran, they can be inexperienced, but you got to put them all together. The talent can be there. You just now make it a team. And that's what he talked about today as far as Phase 2 is concerned, the process of just molding a team.
Really big piece of what we're trying to do is understand how do you merge 40 new some odd players into what you call a team. I've done a lot more personal research on doing that. I've done a lot more personal studies and communicating with different coaches in different areas or different areas. I spent a lot of time. I got a chance to spend some time this offseason with Shaka Smart and just kind of picking his brain on the whole culture, team development piece. Obviously, we're coaching different sports, but we're still coaching 18 to 22-year-olds, and we're still coaching in the same new age of college athletics. So got a chance to spend some time with him, got a chance to talk to a bunch of different coaches at different levels. Not to say, okay, well, we need to do exactly what they're doing, but how do we take successful models and pair it with what we're doing? So that was really good for me.
That's interesting. Coach reaching out to different, not just football coaches, basketball coaches, reaching out to different successful people. I don't know if you remember this, but a few weeks ago, he talked about, and this was signing day, and we were after a women's game at the Henderson Center. So we had Kim Caldwell, and then we had Coach Huff. And Coach alluded to he's trying to chase excellence. He's somebody that's always trying to chase excellence, and I admire him for that. I'm trying to chase excellence. Will we ever catch it? Who knows? But he talked about chasing excellence, if you remember that. And so he had a lot of high praise for Kim Caldwell, how she does things, how she runs her program. And this seems like an expansion of this, going and speaking with coaches, not necessarily your sport, but learning, being exposed to different ways to handle the situation, to handle your organization, your people, yourself. We can all learn. We can always learn. So that's where Coach is at right now. And we'll get into a little bit more depth with him throughout the week as I asked him about that. That's coming up later this week. I'll leave you with that as a tease. But the obvious statement, and Coach even said it was obvious, we're here now. It's 2024. This season is going to be different, and this team is going to be different.
Obviously, this 2024 season is going to be different. We're at the point now where we're beyond the quote-unquote getting ready to or understanding the conference. We've got to drop the ball and go compete now, and that's what our focus has been since the beginning of this phase and phase one. Obviously, we still are in the development phase, right? We're still dealing with 18 to 22-year-old kids that need development, and they come in at all different phases, freshmen, sophomores, transfers, juniors, a whole nine. But it's time for the rubber to meet the road in our program, and that doesn't mean we win every game. That doesn't mean we don't make some mistakes, but we're living in reality now, and we're living in you did or you didn't, and here's what you need to do to improve. Not a lot of patting on the back, not a lot of friendly, let's have a hug. It's cutthroat time for us. And that doesn't mean we're in a panic mode. That doesn't mean that, it's break or bust type of deal. That just means now we've gotten to the point to where our culture, our process, the organization, everyone in the organization knows and understands the expectations. Everyone knows and understands how we do things now. Now it's time to start doing those things consistently.
There you have it. That's the statement I'm always looking for, or at least something similar to that. You did or you didn't. Because at the end of the day, everything that has been built with this program, that's what you expect anyway. You expect a good culture. You want a good culture. You want your students to excel in the classroom. You want your student athletes to excel in life. And that, by all means, should be default. And I think it is with Coach Huff. And as he has grown and progressed as a coach, I think that's become more evident that students, they're important, not just on the field, but off the field as well. So all of that is default. But you did or you didn't. That's the statement that most fans only want to hear. You did or you didn't. And I think Coach Huff acknowledging that, you did or you didn't. What are you going to do about it? Those are the two questions. Did you do it or did you not? Okay, what are you going to do about it? So, 24 season is going to be different. It's a reset. There's a lot of changes. New personnel coming in, 6 and 7. That was even on display. They know they were 6 and 7. The players that are coming back, they know they're 6 and 7 last year. That's what we were talking about. This team was 6 and 7. They don't want to be 6 and 7. That's not the standard at Marshall University. And so with all of this coming up and all of this transition and new coaches and additions and modifications, everything that goes into running a football organization, where are we at? And how do you feel about where you're at? Coach Huff, it's not doom and gloom. He actually feels good to where we're at least in his mind.
I feel really good about where we are. Taking the next step to be successful in the Sun Belt is the goal, right? We understand the conference now. We've been in it for 2 years. We know the challenges that we're going to face. We've got a better gauge of, the environments and the competitiveness that is going to be across the board week in and week out. That doesn't mean we walk in and win every game by 50. That just means when we walk into different arenas now, we have an understanding of what we're walking into. Obviously, there's still some teams on our schedule that we have not played, but we have seen them in crossover and that type of deal. So I feel much better about the understanding of the conference from the player level. I feel much better now about the understanding of the conference from the coaching level, and what we need to do to continue to move forward is a big piece of that.
Coach Huff addressing the media earlier today, so he feels good where we're at. When we continue, we'll get your text in. Don't forget, we're going to do that, and I want to get that open. 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Who is this team? What's the identity? Who are these players? What do we know? And later, a rundown, an overview, what you can expect this year, offensively and defensively, from the Thundering Herd. All of that coming up as we break down Coach Huff's comments today, and we hear from you on today's edition of The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
This is The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
Welcome back to our Monday edition of the show here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. We're going to get back to Coach Huff in just a few moments. Until then, let's get that text line going. 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Texter writes in, Paul, will Cole Pennington be the starter this year, or are there any other quarterbacks that are starting prospects? We're going to get into that a little deeper throughout the week, but to answer your question, to give you the short answer, Pennington is not going to be the starter yet. No one's designated the starter right now, and that's because you have a quarterback room that's new to the offensive quarterback coach, Steph Deji. You just have a new room. And so Deji addressed that a little bit with us today. We're going to get into it a little bit more deeply when we talk more about the offense, but we don't know much about what the starting quarterback position is going to look like until we get through spring, until we get through fall, and get too close to starting day. So I can't say that Pennington won't be the starter, and I can't say he's going to be the starter as well. And I don't think the coaches are going to go on record with that as well. Back to our text line. Texter says, Paul, I know you're getting ready to talk about football, but when are we going to have a state of the basketball press conference? And then when are we going to hear something from Spears like we did for football for D'Antoni? That's a good question. The best I can say about that, and I'm kind of hedging a little bit because I've heard some of the same rumblings that many of you have. And if you haven't heard the rumblings, I don't want to get into spreading rumors, but there's been scuttlebutt. There's been talk that, okay, hey, maybe D'Antoni's going to be stepping down. Hey, Cornelius Jackson, Corny's going to be the new coach. He's sort of the coach in waiting. Or Spears is handcuffed right now by the Board of Governors. There's been a lot of stuff that's been thrown out there, and you're going to have to cut through what's just people talking, what's real, what's completely fake, and what's speculation. Right now, everything that I've heard is pure speculation. And so, will basketball be addressed? I'm sure it's going to be. Will it be addressed soon? I don't know. Maybe tomorrow, maybe next week, maybe 2 weeks from now. I think part of it is if there was going to be something said, I thought we might hear about it sooner than later. But also, we had a women's program that was just in the first round of the NCAA tournament. First time in years that the team had made the NCAA tournament. So I think if there is something coming, and I don't know, but if there was something coming, it's going to hold because let's let Coach have her moment. Let's let that team have its moment before we start talking about any changes to men's basketball. And again, yeah, I've heard that. I've had people text me, oh, I've heard this, and I've had people relay stuff to me secondhand. It's not official till it's official. And so anything I say, it's just me talking, and it's just pure speculation. Is Christian Spears looking to replace Dan D'Antoni? I don't know. Is Dan D'Antoni looking to retire? Honestly, I don't know either. He kind of indicated that, hey, I'm going to, until they don't want me, I want to coach. He said that. He has said that. Until they don't want him, he's going to coach. And so is he going to come back and be the coach? Is he going to step down? Yeah. Does he want to leave the program the way it is, or does he want to have another go at it and try to get it back to something closer to being good? And also, you got to keep in mind, if something's going to happen, maybe it has to happen soon, either yes, he's staying. No, he's not, because you're going to have to bring in students from the transfer portal. You're going to have to replace a lot of players that have decided to part ways with Marshall University. There's a lot that's going on right now. And so I don't know if we're going to hear anything yet. And I have heard some of the things that have been floating out there. Yeah, it's quiet. And maybe that's for the best right now. Maybe there isn't a lot of speculation because either, whatever's going to happen hasn't been decided, or maybe it's just better that we get the correct information before anything. And I hate speculating. I mean, we can talk about maybe they should make a decision soon. We should talk about that. That's fine. But anything that's set in stone, it could be tomorrow, it could be next week, it could be never. And I'm sure whatever it is, fluid or firm, nobody's talking right now. Maybe no news is good news. Maybe no news is bad news. I mean, that used to be the saying, no news is good news. Well, situation, I'm sure, is not that different from what's going on with the University of Kentucky right now. And the University of Kentucky being eliminated in the first round of the NCAA tournament. Coach Calipari, a lot of questions about him. Is it time for him to go? Can the university buy him out? Are the fans going to be behind basketball? Or are they just going to have to grin and bear it and wait it out? There's a lot that's in motion right now, and I'm sure there's similar things at Marshall right now. And again, I know where some of this is coming from. There have been comments that Marshall's athletic department can't do anything because of the Board of Governors. Why is that an issue? Well, I know Kathy D'Antoni's name comes up a lot. She's on the Board of Governors, and so the automatic assumption is, well, she's on the Board of Governors. She's not going to do anything that's going to get rid of her brother, Dan D'Antoni. Or basketball would lose donors, maybe older money. And when I mean older money is people who've been with the program for a long time. There would be people who still believe in Dan D'Antoni, and you would lose their support if you lose Dan D'Antoni. I've heard all of this stuff. How much of it is real? How much of it is people talking and speculating? Your guess is as good as mine. But yes, we do need to address it. And I have to hedge my bets a little bit on this because I don't want to tell you something, and I don't want to come on here and say, this is it. This is the way it is. That wouldn't be fair to you, and it wouldn't be fair to me. If I get it wrong, I get it wrong, but I don't want to intentionally get it wrong. That makes sense to everybody? Let's get back into football just for a moment. Text line's open, 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Big question about this Marshall football team. Identity, that's always going to be a big question. The question is, we're talking about Phase 2 still with Coach Huff earlier today. Who are these players? What's the identity of this team? And, that's where we started up with Coach Huff again. Who are they?
Building this team is what we're trying to do here in this phase, right? Who are they? We don't know. They look really good running around in shorts and running around bags, but there's a football physical component that we're going to get to see in these next 15 practices. And what we've got to do as an organization is we've got to figure out who this team is. How do they handle adversity? How do they handle installs? How do they handle everyday life? We've got all new kids. So just think about it. Take your kids at home, send them out, and bring in brand new kids. And you've got, less than 6 months to kind of get them ready to go. And that's where we're at.
6 months, brand new team. That's going to be the skill set of tomorrow. It's going to have to be the skill set today. Every year, you're going to have a new team. Who are they? That's going to be said more and more. Who are they? And Coach talked about trying to be more intentional, also building relationships. That's key for this culture and this program and for Coach Huff, trying to build relationships. He kind of alluded to it being like speed dating because they really don't have the time. Gone are the days of you following a kid in, I don't know, junior high? Is that too late? You follow a kid for many years and you got a long recruit. Hey, that kid's going to be great in a few years. We love to have him. You're building those relationships over years. Now, I think his term speed dating was kind of important as far as trying to build relationships and being more intentional as far as how they approach bringing kids in and trying to build this team.
We've done a much more intentional job of building relationships. I think it still comes down to relationships. You can't motivate, you can't improve, you can't develop anyone at any level without a relationship. And what we've had to do from a coaching staff standpoint is be a lot more intentional about developing those relationships, because we don't have the time. We didn't sit in these kids' homes, when they were in high school and tell their parents, all the great things we were going to be able to do. Some of these guys we got on speed dating terms, sit down with them for a meal or two here, and then all of a sudden they come on a visit and they're in. So because of that, we still got to develop the relationship. It's like a marriage. Doesn't matter if you married your high school sweetheart or you met someone, in college, or you met someone on your job or throughout your life. Ultimately, it comes down to developing that relationship as we go.
That's Coach Huff talking about being a little bit more intentional as far as building these relationships are concerned. We've got a lot of new coaches, new situations, new offense. We'll touch on what that might look like offensively and defensively when we continue. And, of course, our text line is open, and we don't have to keep it to football. You want to get into basketball a little bit more? We'll pivot to that. Our text line is 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. More to come on today's edition of The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
Attention sports fans.
Sandy's Racing and Gaming Casino brings you the ultimate thrill, the state-of-the-art BetMGM Sportsbook right here in Ashland, Kentucky. It's not just a sportsbook, it's an experience. Catch every play, feel the excitement, and place your bets on your favorite team. From live games to exclusive events, Sandy's Sportsbook is your ticket to winning big. Don't miss out on the heart-pounding moments. Visit Sandy's Racing and Gaming, where the game never stops. Bet big, win bigger.
21 plus only. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Hey, Tri-State. Frank's Place is where friends hang out with friends. Stop on by for happy hour from 4 to 6 p.m. and a lot of daily specials. If you're a sports fan, we have what you want. From NCAA basketball, NBA, NHL, and MLB. First responders, stop by Frank's Place and check out the specials we have for you. Frank's Place, located at the River Place Plaza, next to Fratelli's. Check us out on Facebook for weekly updates and specials. Frank's Place, your home away from home.
Stalwart Insurance is the name for insurance in the Tri-State. They are committed to delivering tailored benefit solutions with thoughtful, strategic planning with valuable professional services. Stop by or call Stalwart Insurance for your homeowner's insurance needs. Stalwart Insurance is located right beside Kenny Queen Hardware on Route 10 in Barbersville. Call Stalwart Insurance anytime at 304-552-3883. That's 304-552-3883. Or visit them online at stalwartinsurance.com.
Some days I cover up because of my moderate to severe plaque psoriasis. Now I'm hitting the road with clearer skin thanks to Skyrizi, Risankizumab Riza, a prescription-only 150 milligram injection for adults who are candidates for systemic or phototherapy. With Skyrizi, 3 out of 4 people achieved 90% clearer skin at 4 months. And Skyrizi is just 4 doses a year after 2 starter doses.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or a lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check for infection and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms such as fever, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, or if you plan to or recently received a vaccine.
Thanks to Skyrizi, there's nothing on my skin, and that means everything. Your doctor today about Skyrizi, the #1 dermatologist prescribed biologic in psoriasis, and visit skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKYRIZI to learn more.
At Target, count on our great deals just in time for Easter. Save $5 when you spend $30 on toys with Target Circle, so you can fill their baskets with fun, like cuddly stuffed animals or 50-piece sidewalk chalk, all from only $5. Add an Easter chocolate faves at BOGO 50% off, from Cadbury to Reese's Mini Eggs and more. And get great family picks with new Easter looks. It's easy with 20% off dresses, polos, and more. Hop in fast for our best Easter deals, only at Target. Restrictions apply.
Take a look under your bed. Find stuff under there? What about jobs? No? Now try your basement. There's a pair of overalls that overall you're not so into anymore. A perfectly good laptop that hasn't sat in your lap in months. And even more stuff, but still no jobs? Well, you really have both. See, stuff is defined as household articles considered as a group. Sometimes this stuff is no longer needed. Wait, no longer needed? That can't be right. Because remember those jobs you were looking for? Those are really needed, and they're the stuff inside your stuff. even inside that winter coat that moved with you to Phoenix. Our job is to unlock those jobs, and it starts when you donate your stuff to your local Goodwill. Here's how we do it. When you donate to Goodwill, we sell your stuff to provide job training for people right here in your community. So just by teaming up with Goodwill, you help create jobs. And isn't that worth parting with the leftover guitar from your 80s cover band? Goodwill. Donate stuff, create jobs. Find your nearest donation center at goodwill.org. A message from Goodwill and the Ad Council.
How was your day? What did you do in school? I'm Dale Lee, president of the West Virginia Education Association, and these two simple questions can encourage learning in your home. Showing interest and asking about the school day can help motivate your children and keep them excited about learning. So stay involved, stay curious, and ask specific questions. Student success involves the whole family.
A message from the West Virginia Education Association.
This is The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
It's our final segment of today's edition of The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. We've been listening to Coach Huff ahead of practice happening today at Jones C. Edwards Stadium. Number 1 at 15 as the Thundering Herd getting set for the spring game. That's coming up on April 20th. I'm your host, Paul Swann. This is The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. We had a question earlier from our text line at 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255, asking about Cole Pennington. Is he going to be the starter? And it's too early to say right now who's going to be the starter at any position, including the quarterback position. Coach talked about this earlier as far as roster opportunity. I'll let that stand today. We'll hear a little bit more about the offense tomorrow. But I'll let this stand today as far as thoughts on, and I'm sure this applies to Pennington as well, as far as who's got a starting job and who doesn't.
A really good opportunity for every player on the roster. Not many times do you truly go into a spring or a season and say, okay, well, everybody's got a chance to compete for a spot. Legitimately, they do, because no one knows the offense, right? So it doesn't matter if you've played 70 snaps or you've played 300 snaps. You got an opportunity to learn the offense and go out and play. And I think as a player, that's exciting, because it's not, well, Logan Osborne's the starting center because, Logan's played here for, 5-6 years and he's going to be the center. He knows all the calls. He knows all the adjustments. He's got to start learning just like the freshmen do, which has been good for him. And I'm just using him as an example of one of the older guys, some of the guys that have played a lot of football around here on both sides of the ball. Being able to be forced to go back and relearn is really good. You think about your job. If you had to go back and relearn how to do your job every year, it would be a challenge, which in football and sports, that challenge is exciting because it gives everyone an opportunity. There's no person sitting in any one of these position rooms saying, well, I got to wait my turn. If you want to be the starting whatever on offense, learn the playbook, go out and execute with fundamentals and details, and consistently do it. Bang, you're the guy.
Bang, you're the guy. I think that's Coach telegraphing where we're at as far as anybody who's got a starting position. You don't have to wait your turn if you don't. You can go out there, do all of that stuff, and bang, you're the guy. And I think we'll leave it at that with Coach Huff today. We'll get a little bit more into the offense and the new coaching staff tomorrow. But I will say this, and we'll go with this one final cut. Coach talked about just being excited to find out who the leaders are, how this team is going to respond. Also, he's excited to find out how this coaching staff is going to respond. There are some new faces. There are some new faces and some new positions. Not everybody's the same as it was last year. And so Coach touched on that a little bit with the coaching staff. And we'll get into a deeper dive tomorrow, but here's what he had to say about all of these new parts coming in.
The new coaching staff, I feel really good about them. Hats off, much appreciation to the guys who were able to move on. The guys that were here last year helped us build to where we are, but the new coaching staff brings in a new energy, some new ideas. Obviously, it's still 11-on-11 football. You're trying to score touchdowns and stop the other team from scoring touchdowns, but just new ideas, new ways to package some things. Obviously, offensively, making the switch So we'll be triple option. We'll look like Army and Navy, and we'll run it 72 times and throw it 5 and win a bunch of games 10-6. So hope everybody's ready for now.
No, Coach there with a little jokey, isn't it? No, they're running the air raid. We'll talk more about the air raid tomorrow, and that'll give you an opportunity to tell me how excited you are for that. The air raid. That's been one of the major complaints I hear from a lot of people who either reach out to me social media or text into the program or just talk to me if you know me, and you hear all the time Marshall would just throw the ball more, or if Marshall would play a more exciting brand of football. This is boring. Marshall's not scoring, and it's not even fun to watch. Well, if it's done right, it's going to be fun to watch. I don't know if the Herd's going to win too many games by a 10-7 margin. It might be 50-45. I don't know. But there's been a history of Marshall playing that deep ball. You have one of the all-time greats as Randy Moss set records as the wide receiver, and Chad Pennington was chucking the ball deep. And you had guys like Byron Leftwich, and he was a good one as well. Those are probably two of the best quarterbacks in the game of football, college level. Pennington, Leftwich, Michael Payton back in the day. Great guy. There you have it. That's today, day one of us talking about spring football. We're going to have more. We're going to talk about it often. Hopefully we'll have some basketball in there as well. And we'll get to more of your comments and thoughts tomorrow. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget, if you missed any part of today's show, or you just like to go back and listen to something you didn't catch earlier on in the week, you can download the show anytime. Go to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, go to our website, or wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for tuning in to today's edition of The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
Retransmitting in glorious FM on 94.1 W227BS Huntington. This is 930 WRVC Huntington, celebrating 100 years of broadcasting.